Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, welcome back. Hey, did you miss me? It's been a minute. Um, it feels like it's been forever. We did our show Friday. I'm the Old Humble guy, your host, your spirit guide, the guy who'll be doing all the gibbering and jabbering tonight. Um, Tonight it is Whiskey Wednesday. It's Wednesday night. We're doing our where science and philosophy meets whiskey. Tonight is more philosophy than science. We're talking about free speech, um, because it's been a hell of a topic of the last several days since everyone's favorite South African bought Twitter. Tony Stark himself bought Twitter. Elon Musk, yeah. So free speech has been a topic of conversation, but we'll get to that in a minute. Like I said, it feels like it's been forever since I've been on because I didn't do my Monday show. I didn't do a Tuesday show. It's Wednesday. I'm doing a Wednesday show. Last week I did a Wednesday show. We skipped Thursday and then I did Friday. And I've been kind of incommunicado and off the what's the word? Off the grid, somewhat since last Friday. Kind of taking a break, relaxing. I'm working like a crazy person at the distillery. We're distilling a bunch of alcohol right now. We're getting a bunch of stuff done. Let's lower this camera just a shade there. I do need to clean this mess up. This is okay, but I really need to clean this up. Look at that. Ugh, that is a garbage pit. But as I said, I am the Old Humble guy. I am your host. I'm your spirit guide. I own the Old Humble Distilling Company. That's us. That's us. That's us. And you know, I've been saying this for a little over a month. We get 550 subscribers. I'll give away a bottle of whiskey. What bottle of whiskey? Well, not this bottle of whiskey because it's almost empty. But this, we'll be giving away a bottle of our Double Oak Straight Rye. I haven't given away a bottle of our Double Oak Straight Rye on this stream yet. I don't think. Have I? I may have. I may have given a bottle away last winter, back in November, December. I can't remember. Maybe January. I can't remember. I don't think I have though. I may be mistaken about that. No, I have. In fact, I did on one of our trivia nights. I gave that away. So let's talk real quick about what's going on. Well, let's do a little housekeeping first, and then we'll get into the topic of discussion. Give people a chance to filter in here and get ready to participate in the sure. So as I said, I'm your host, the Old Humble Guy, the guide, your spirit guide, the host for the night. Um, our typical schedule during the week, our typical schedule during the week had been a Monday show, which was our Monday morning update on our quest for 100,000 views for the channel. I've put a pin in that, and I think I'm gonna move that to monthly. So our next 100,000 views update is Monday. Monday next week. It's not going to be a Monday morning show. Maybe I'll record it pre. I don't. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I may record and do a pre-record. I like to do it live though, so we can talk. Anyway, we'll talk. Well, I'm in discussion about these things. So next week we'll do our Monday live update of our 100,000 views. I made a commitment, I've made a decision. I don't know if you call it a commitment. Yeah, kind of commitment, a pledge, a goal, a stated goal of trying to get our channel up to 100,000 views by the end of this year. And I made that commitment in February, mid-February. So that gives me 10 and a half months to learn how to use the algorithm, learn how to use YouTube's algorithm and the viewers and my subscriber base to our advantage. 100,000 is a nice, even, cool number to shoot for. We had been at 40,000 views. So the goal is 60,000 views in 10 months, which, if you're doing the math, is 6,000 a month. We have not broken 1,000. We did 750, 800, 850, February, March, April. So April, 700 and 850 were the two, February and March. I don't want to dwell on this too much because I want to get into the update at the beginning of May. But the goal ultimately was to make a better channel and make better content for you, the viewer, and the internets, and do more. And I'm working on that. I'm absolutely working on that. We're gonna play and see more of what we can do. Part of that strategy is in with shorts. Part of that strategy is more live shows like we've been doing, a more variety of live shows like we've been doing, and specific themes of our live shows, like Wednesday night doing science and philosophy meets whiskey, Thursday night is trivia, Friday night is live music, trying to break things up a little bit so it's not just me and somebody else talking for an hour or two or three, whatever. Um, Tuesday is Tuesday had been the nights that we do kind of a current events update. We'd been talking about the war in Ukraine. I took a break from the war in Ukraine because I can, because I'm 2,500 miles away from it, 4,000 miles, 9,000 miles. I don't know how far away Ukraine is. 10,000 miles. Let's go with 10,000. But there have been some good developments over the last couple of weeks, so maybe we'll come back to that next week on Tuesday. And then, no, actually, next Tuesday I'll be driving down to Laredo, where I will be picking up 500 rockets so that we can celebrate our 500 subscribers to the channel. And hopefully, shortly after that, I'll be celebrating 600 subscribers to the channel. That's something else we'll talk about in just a second. This lighting is terrible. It's really terrible. It's off to the wrong side. I need that lamp on, and I don't have it on. I need better lighting. I need a better studio. I need a better everything. We'll work on all that. I haven't poured myself my drink yet. Goodness, everything's off the rails right now. We'll wait. I'll wait till we get to the topic at hand before I pour the drink. And then Wednesday nights are our whiskey meets, our science and philosophy meets whiskey. Last week we talked about Euclid's postulates. The week before that, I can't remember what we talked about. Tonight we're going to talk about the philosophical underpinnings of free speech, what it means to have free speech, what free speech means to us, what free speech means to our country, our people, our democracy in general, what it is, what it isn't, all that stuff. We're gonna have a grand old time. Hopefully, a lively back and forth discussion regarding that as well. Then tomorrow night, Thursday nights, we do our trivia. We have connected up with pub trivia guys, so we'll be doing trivia live at the distillery as well as virtually online with virtually online through the YouTube. So y'all will be able to participate as well if you're watching along and participating along at home. Then Friday nights, starting at our doors open at 6 o'clock. The music starts at 7 o'clock. We start the show about 6:45. This week we have Paul May again joining us. Paul Day again joining us. Returning champion Paul Day. I'll be posting that link up later on tonight or tomorrow for Friday's show. I'm not sure yet how we're going to do the trivia tomorrow. I tried it last week. It didn't come together as planned for the show last week. But the goal is to do one part of it to have people participating online so that people online can participate and win prizes as well as the people physically at the distillery. So I'm working on that. We'll see how that works out. I'm not 100% sure. And then there you go. That's our schedule for the week. And there's a chance, a better than even chance, you'll be able to catch me at the distillery during the week doing a day in the life. I did not get a day in the life done this week. Because our day in the life this week was really very similar to a day in the life last week when I was distilling and bottling and kind of doing all the moving parts at the same time. I'm really, really looking forward to the day when we do a day in the life when I'm making bourbon, and that will be next month in May. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be an exciting thing. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a fun time. It's going to be very exciting for me at the distillery. And I may even send out invitations to our Roughneck Social Club members to join me for that auspicious moment. But that does remind me, I do need to send messages out to my club members. I need to write that down. Yeah, I'll use this. I'm going to write that down. Send message to Roughneck Social Club members. All right. Thanks for reminding me of that, YouTube. Appreciate that. Okay. So that's all the housekeeping that needs to be done right now. We're about 15 minutes in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a word from our sponsor, two sponsors. Of course, me, the Old Humble Distilling Company, and this show is brought to you in part by Cindy's Erectile Dysfunction Clinic. Dr. Cindy has proven treatments to help you with your erectile dysfunction. And if your treatments do not work, you are guaranteed your money back. That is how committed Dr. Cindy is to her erectile dysfunction treatment. Her clinic can be found on Airport Boulevard, just past the $5 per hour motel. Caveat, she's not an actual doctor. And our other sponsors for the night, of course, the Old Humble Distilling Company is the sponsor for the night. We will have our Ad Twins ad now, and then I'll be back, and we'll be talking about, what were we talking about tonight? Free speech, right. Free speech. And 3, 2, 1, bring on the Ad Twins.
Is your bar looking a little ordinary? Is it lacking something awesome? Well, head out to your local liquor store and pick up something extraordinary. Grab a bottle of Old Humble Straight Whiskey or Old Humble Special Reserve. They're clean, smooth, easy drinking whiskeys that taste the way whiskey should taste. From humble beginnings to an extraordinary finish, Old Humble whiskeys are what your bar needs today. Walk tall, be awesome, and drink humble. Old Humble Straight Whiskey and Old Humble Special Reserve. Get yours today.
And we're back. Get in here. Let's do, all right. Shared out the link. Just want to make sure I got the link shared out there. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, welcome back. I am the Old Humble Guy. We are talking free speech tonight. I am pouring my drink. I am drinking tonight our Double Oak Straight Rye, our special barrel pick from the Humble Whiskey Club. I'll go ahead and kill that bottle off there. I may have to call out to my lovely bride and ask her to bring me another bottle because I do not have. I don't think I have another one. Do I have another one? No, I think all I have are empty. I'm running out of whiskey. Well, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I'm running out of whiskey. Let's talk about free speech. So free speech has been a topic lately. People clutching their pearls and kvetching and huffing and puffing and harumphing around, worrying and freaking out about Elon Musk buying Twitter. And oh my God, it's the death of free speech. And what are we going to do? What are we going to do? All right, first off, people, let's just agree real quick that Twitter does not equal speech. Okay? I mean, you can speak on Twitter, but like, that is not all the speech. Like, seriously, if you don't have a Twitter account, you can still speak. You can still express your ideas. You can still express your mind. You can still say and do whatever you want without fear or retribution of government entities hog-tying you and throwing you in the back of a truck. Within reason, there are caveats even to free speech, our First Amendment right. There are caveats to that. You cannot libel. You cannot speak libel. You cannot speak. You can't speak libel anyway. Libel would be written. You can't have slander speech. You can't have. I'm pretty sure seditious speech is still illegal. I'm not 100% sure about that. I'm sure somebody in chat or comments will confirm that for me or tell me I'm a fucking idiot because I got it wrong. You can't speak classified information. You can't say things that are classified. You can't share that information. You can't you can't have harmful speech. You can't have hate speech. Although I'm pretty sure hate speech is not illegal. It's socially unacceptable, but it's not illegal. There's no such thing as hate speech. I don't think there's any such thing as statutes that prevent that, which is a curious thing about the United States. We don't have we have known domestic terrorist organizations, but they haven't traditionally been listed as terrorist organizations domestically because we have the freedom of association. Foreign associations, foreign groups can be known as terrorist organizations, but that's one of the reasons why the Klan was never considered a terrorist organization. For one of the reasons, not the reason, one of the reasons, because it was kind of against the law to consider them a terrorist organization. Um, unconstitutional and all that. You can't just arrest people for being in the Klan because you have the freedom of association. We could and should run them out of town. Most decent people don't want them around. But we also know what kind of decent people uh, lived in towns and cities and states that encourage that kind of behavior. But we'll get that's a topic for another time. More topic about free speech, although that does kind of shoehorn into with the dovetails in with the free speech notion, because there is speech that is fully and totally against the law. Let's talk. Let's get the actual text of the First Amendment that guarantees our freedom of speech. Let's pull that up real quick. I will. Whoops, I misspelled first. That's a Fifth Amendment. RST. Thank you. Amend First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States says, and I quote, text. There it is, and I quote: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of people to peaceably, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. So there you go. Congress shall make no law, dot, 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 abridging the freedom of speech. So, when it comes to the notion of free speech, we can already just draw the line in the sand right there. Twitter is not controlled by Congress. Neither is Facebook, neither is, uh, uh, I don't know, whatever. YouTube, right here, YouTube, this is not, Congress cannot make laws telling me what I can and cannot say here on Twitter. I can make rules saying what you can say on my Twitter feed or on my YouTube feed. I can make rules and laws saying what I'll allow over here or down here in comments. I can make all kinds of rules about what I will allow and what I will allow on my channel. And if I bring a guest up on my channel, what I will allow them to say and what I will accept them to say. There's a whole lot of nonsensical crap that I will not have on my channel. There's a reason when I do our shows on the science and evidence confirming the globe Earth that I don't bring up people to defend the alternative point of view that is just flat out wrong. I don't want that nonsense coming out on my channel. It's not going to ever happen. I'm not going to give a free forum to people who lie about the Civil War. I'm not going to give a free forum to people who lie about the former president. I'm not going to give a free forum to people who lie, who just spout nonsensical crap. Just not going to be that's not going to be this forum. You can have your own forum. You can go off and do that whatever you want. But of course, I'm also not Congress. If I were Congress, I would be constitutionally prevented from doing that. I would be constitutionally prevented from passing laws that abridge people's freedom of speech. I could absolutely pass rules saying who can say what and when they can say it within the halls of Congress. That's not a law. Congress shall pass no law abridging freedom of speech, but they can absolutely pass rules because rules aren't law. States cannot prohibit free expression and free speech because states are subordinate to the Constitution. So states can't go and do that either. So that's the legal stuff. That's the legal stuff. Get that all out of the way. Done and done. Done and dusted. But there's been all the huffing and puffing over the last week. Elon Musk paid $44 billion, $45 billion, somewhere in that neighborhood, for all of Twitter. Owns it lock, stock, and barrel. he's been saying a bunch of stuff too about what he's going to do. Who knows if that's actually what he's going to do? I have no idea. It's his asset. He can do whatever, literally whatever he wants to. But one thing that he did say that I think is a fair question to ask. Uh, he says that in order to regain its trust, which I was never under the impression that Twitter wasn't trusted, Twitter needs to be politically neutral. And to be politically neutral, he says, you have to anger the far right and far left equally. But see, that's not politically neutral because that's assuming that the far right and the far left are equal and opposite to the moderate center. They're not really, because the far left is far closer to the moderate center than the far that would be the example I said earlier, not on in this form. That'd be like saying, we need to be equally opposed to tall grass in the front yard and fire burning down the house. Like, we need to be much more opposed to fire burning down the house than we do about, skipping a week mowing the lawn. Like, skipping the week mowing the lawn is not going to destroy the entire fucking house. But the fire will literally burn down the house. And, when you have a group of people that like want healthcare and affordable housing and affordable like college and, just to be able to live without having to constantly live in fear of bankruptcy due to a broken leg or a flu or complications with a cold or something like that, versus people who like literally are okay if everybody dies because of a virus or are totally willing to upend the Constitution. Like, these are not equal and opposites. That's not politically neutral. That is the opposite of political neutral. That is politically in favor of one specific group. That's telling. I mean, this is not what politically neutral means. That is not the idea of behind. Well, the freedom of expression and the freedom of speech, especially in the context of social media networks. I mean, social media networks truly are other people's property. You're literally going into other people's houses. You're going into what amounts to a public square. You're going into what amounts to be a crowd of people, standing up on a soapbox and yelling into a crowd of people where where everybody else in the crowd of people is yelling back at you. You're saying what you think. They're saying what they think. Everybody's saying what they think. Not every freedom of speech means you can say whatever you want to say, but it does not entitle you to an audience. It does not free you from the repercussions of your speech. It absolutely doesn't free you from responsibility. It simply means that Congress cannot abridge your speech. Congress can't say you can't go into the public square, stand up on a chair, and scream the N word over and 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 over again. Congress can't say that. The rest of us can say that. The rest of us can say, that's not what we don't know. That is not acceptable. You need to get off your damn soapbox. And if they refuse, we can kick that soapbox. We are within our rights to establish and set community standards. We are within our rights to establish what we will allow in our community. We are within our rights to make those determinations. In very much the same way that Facebook is allowed to do that, Twitter's allowed to do that, Instagram's allowed to do that, YouTube's allowed to do that. All of these forums are absolutely allowed to set their community standards. And we are obligated, if we're going to participate in those communities, to abide by those community standards. This is very, very, very similar. Very much similar? Is that a word I'm looking for? Yeah, it's very much similar to the same discussion we had a few weeks back when it came to cancel culture. That cancel culture is not really a thing. People aren't there's not predatory mobs looking, to end people's careers and lives and public existences because of a casual slip of the tongue. They're we're talking about communities of people that are fed up with people acting like jackholes. Um, and that's the same thing when it comes to Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or whatever. It's a community of people. In the cases of the actual companies, their boards of standards, they establish community standards, and the community can decide, look, this guy's an a hole. He has a pattern of being an a hole, and we're fed up with it. And Twitter or YouTube or whomever can look at it and go, you know what? They're not really being a holes. You're just being hypersensitive. Or, the AL can say, yeah, I kind of went over the line. Sorry about that. I won't do that again. And then they take their punishment and shut up and sit down for a little while. I mean, that happens too. But people are not out there losing their jobs because of one casual slip of the tongue. They're out there losing their jobs because they're jack-offs and they deserve it. Generally speaking, they deserve it. Only a handful of times. I mean, I'm sure it happens more than a handful of times. There's only been a handful of uh, uh, publicly notable times where the mob has come down on people and very inappropriately come down on people. Al Franken is one of those examples where uh, his community said, "Look, we can't have this," and they probably came down on him a little bit harder than they should have. Uh, that's politics for you, right? Luckily for them, and probably one of the parts of this of that decision making was that they had a bench and a deep bench behind him, so it was fine. Um, but he was probably unfairly targeted, and certainly there have been others. But most of the time, when you see people who are unfairly targeted, they uh, they kind of they kind of just weather the storm, and then it comes out not too much later that like they really weren't. I guess I mean shit with the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard stuff. It comes out later that they were kind of being unfairly targeted and people overreacted a little bit, and it's probably okay. Uh, but we also know in other cases that people come to their defense and they accept that defense and they try to show that they're really not the a hole that they've been demonstrated to be, and then you give them 6 months and boom, they're back at it. Uh, oh shit, the dude who killed Trayvon Martin. What's his name? Can't remember his freaking name. But it turns out he was an asshole. He was a deeply troubled asshole. And you give him enough time, you give him enough rope. He stuck his foot back in it. I don't want to say give him enough rope, he hanged himself. That's a terrible one. But you give him enough time, he'll step in another pile of shit because that's just what he does. Gonzalez? No, it wasn't Gonzalez. What's his name? Doesn't matter. I'd rather not know his name, to be quite honest. But when it comes to uh, uh, social media specifically, but in general public forums, uh, you know, uh, uh, Twitter and Facebook and Instagrams and YouTubes, these guys don't own. They own the forum on which we put our content, and as such, they have an obligation to make sure that the content that they're passing through their portals is not flagrantly false or flagrantly harmful or hurtful or uh, in violation of community standards, specifically in violation of community standards. There was a time in the not so distant past, within my lifetime, where these things didn't exist. Like, did not exist at all. Like, you did not have, like, there were literally digital bulletin boards, which were no different than bulletin boards at like Starbucks or Walmart or wherever. The little community bulletin boards where you put up your band flyer, you put up your uh, uh, babysitting services, or the bulletin boards at the university where you're trying to solicit uh, guitar. Geez, I pulled one down. I was going to be a drummer for a band. I don't know how to play drums. I thought it would be fun. to go in and fake it and see if I can figure it out. But no, I don't own a set of drums, so it would have been really hard for me to be a drummer. But call the phone number, peel the thing off, call the phone number. They have little tabs down at the bottom, lost dog, whatever. Literal bulletin boards. When they moved those into the digital world, there were digital bulletin boards. And you would post up whatever nonsense you wanted to post up on the digital bulletin board. And the companies that hosted these bulletin boards were saying, look, we can't be liable for the crap that people post. And that's not vastly different than 4chan or Reddit, 3chan, 8chan, or whatever chans they got now. It's not vastly different than all that, but those forums claim that they can't be responsible because they're basically an open forum for people to go in and post their own content. And those are the laws under which Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and all these guys are operating. It's very different from a newspaper, which controls they control the information that's being put out. Newspapers have editorial boards. Newspapers vet their reporter stories. They do all this legwork and preparatory work that Facebook. I mean, anybody can post shit up on Facebook. Anybody can post shit up on Twitter. Anybody can do anything. But the community standards is where these forums maintain their order. Because if they don't have that order, then there has to be some kind of editorial board. Otherwise, they turn around and they can be held liable for allowing misinformation, outright bullshit, and lies. Oh, I gotta shift and adjust over here. I need to clean up that. I've got a knocked over bottle, a knocked over cup. I've got all kinds of nasty trash down there. I really do need that. This all of this is just a friggin' mess. Anyway, what was I saying? Um, anyway, it's the community standards that keep these things together, and we don't need to be worried about losing our freedom of speech because somebody bought Twitter. We do need to worry about the community standards shifting uh, and allowing more nonsense, more lies, more outright bullshit uh, to be passed around and spread around. I mean, social media networks were one of the primary ways that foreign activists interfered with our election in 2016. It's one of the primary ways that foreign activists attempted to fiddle around with our elections in 2018. It's one of the primary ways that foreign activists tried to fiddle around with our election in 2020 through our social media networks, because we get a lot of our information through the social media networks. We get a lot of our information, a lot of our news, a lot of our interactions with people come through there. I mean, if you think about your daily interactions, you probably interact mostly with your family. If you have family at home, you interact mostly with your family or people at work. That's on a given day, you'll probably interact with 10 people face to face, depending on how big your office is and whether or not you work in retail. If you work in retail, you'll probably interact with a whole lot more people. But online, so through social media, you will likely interact with hundreds of people. You'll see, 25 or more people's posts. You'll see their posts. You'll see the comments from people leaving comments on their post. If you're like me, you have several social media accounts. So you're not just on YouTube, you're also on Twitter, and you're on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and you're kind of browsing back and forth during the day just to entertain yourself and let the day pass. You're probably interacting with hundreds of people through the social media. And that is, again, that's not free speech. That is a well-regulated forum owned by a company, managed by a board, and they're like employees in the background watching what, not vetting, but making sure that what you have what you're posting stays within community guidelines, and it's not illegal because there's a whole lot of illegal shit that people can post online too, and that like you know, well, in the case of Instagram and Facebook, it'd be titty pics, uh, dick pics. You're not allowed to post nudes on most social medias. I think Twitter allows it. Who else allows? I don't think TikTok allows it. What was the one that was bought by Yahoo? It was not the blog. It wasn't Blogger. I think that's Google. The one that was bought. The one that was the God, I can't remember what that one was. It'll come to me later, I'm sure. But that one was. I think that was bought by Yahoo. Um, Tumblr. That's the one I'm thinking of. The picture-based one that nobody uses anymore. That one was famously a den for porn until they changed their community standards and got rid of all the nudes and X-rated photos so that they could be sold, and now nobody uses them. Go figure. What was another one? That Reddit. That's one that I think. Well, Reddit I think is owned by a company, but they have very open community standards. Uh, but you still can't post kitty porn. You can't post. You can't do any illegal type of thing. You can't post. I don't think you. I don't think you can post actual pictures of murder, dead body. I'm sure you can post dead bodies. Huh. But there's limits even to the free. I mean, you can say and do whatever you want, but you can't say and do whatever you want on any forum in existence. Like YouTube will take down videos of kids fighting. Usually, I don't know if they always do, but they usually do. They'll be up there for a little while, and then they'll get taken down. Um, but there you go. I mean, you can, and we're at about 22. It's about time to start wrapping it up, so that I can go have dessert and hit the hay. It's been a long day for me. It's gonna be a long day tomorrow too. But um, but yeah, I mean, there you go. I mean, that's the philosophical notion of free speech is that you can say and do whatever you want unencumbered by government. We see the exact opposite of that in Russia, where people are getting arrested for literally holding up a sign that says 2 words. They get arrested. 2 words. Am I going to get arrested for holding up a sign that says 2 words? Yep. They get arrested, carted off, put in a truck, and shipped out. There's no press freedom. There's no freedom of expression. There's no freedom of speech. There's no freedom of assembly. There's no freedom. There's no kinds of freedoms right now. They are 100% cracked down against their illegal invasion of Ukraine. They can't even call it a war. If you call it a war, you will get arrested. Um, that is the 100% polar opposite of our free speech, where we have it literally enshrined in our Constitution. They have no such protection. And also in other countries, they have cultural protections on freedom of expression, but I don't believe, like in Europe, England and France and other places, that it's actually protected, legally protected speech. I could be wrong. It's a principle that they hold true, but it's not a legal fact, a legal statute. I don't think. I could be completely wrong about that. And ironically enough, I think if you codify it and make it and put it on paper, then I think it narrows the. I think it might actually narrow the freedom that we have, even if it's even if it's just a marginal narrowing of that. Because if you have a principle of free speech, and you have to stick to your principles, otherwise it would be un-American. Whereas the counter option to the principle of free speech is the uh, legal codified uh, fact of free speech, where it's not a principle, but it's a legal fact. Um, then there's lines that define it, and we treat our free speech that way, where there's lines that define it, but we don't treat our other freedoms that way. Our other freedoms are much more expansive. That might be something else we could talk about. Like, does writing it down and codifying it actually narrow it, or does it make it more? Because I mean, we seem to have, like legally speaking, we seem to have pretty much open. I need to talk to people in France and Germany and England to find out if they feel like they are more free or less free to say and do. Because I really think that people here feel free to say and do whatever the hell they want. It is quite clear that people are free. They feel empowered to say and do whatever the hell they want, especially over the last 5 or 6 years. They feel like there are no rules anymore, that you can say and do whatever you want, and you should be free from your consequences of your total dumbassery. But the reality is that if you live in a society, you are never free of the consequences of your dumbassery. You can say and do whatever you want, but you really need to weigh whether or not you really want to say that. And that's not going to change on Twitter. That's not going to change on Facebook. That's not going to change on YouTube. That's not going to change any. Somebody doesn't go and pay $44 billion just to uh, uh, open it up to be a den of trash and garbage. I mean, you don't pay that much money for a toy just to turn around and ruin it. You know, Twitter became a $45 billion company because they had community standards, and there was an expected level of decorum and an expected standard of at least not intentionally. I mean, actually, I think spreading bullshit is pretty much common currency on on Twitter a lot of the time. Um, but as far as the stated goal, yeah, I don't think we really have a whole lot to worry about on that end. But more specifically, your freedom of speech, my freedom of speech, everybody's freedom of speech is not going to be abridged by some rich guy buying Twitter. You can still say and do whatever you want. You seriously need to consider whether or not you want to say that, because there will be consequences if that's what you want to say. I mean, I'm fairly outspoken on what it is that I would like to see happen and what it is that I believe, and I've weighed the consequences of that, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with those consequences. But some other people may not be as okay with it, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. I mean, there have been plenty of stories of people who have weighed the consequences of what they were trying to say, and they were like, "Yeah, that's fine. I don't care." And they end up getting the shit slapped out of them by by Will Smith. It happens. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you weigh the consequences of your actions. You're like, you know what? I think it'll be okay. And then you lure your neighbor's dog into your backyard and you shoot it in the forehead. And then turns out the consequences of your actions were a little bit more extreme than you expected. By the way, that's something that exactly happened in an old neighborhood that I used to live in. Dickhead neighbor about 5 doors down from me lured his neighbor's dog into his backyard and shot it because he was an asshole. And I think he had to move his air conditioning business to another town because he was a terrible person. And nobody wanted to get their air conditioning services from him. So, that said, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Your freedom of speech is not being abridged just because you don't have a forum to say whatever dumb nonsense you want to say. You are constitutionally guaranteed freedom of speech. You are not and never have been constitutionally guaranteed an audience to your speech. You have never been constitutionally guaranteed freedom of consequences for your speech. But you are 100% absolutely constitutionally guaranteed the right, unabridged by Congress, to say whatever it is you want. And with that, quick word from our sponsor.
Is your bar looking a little ordinary? Is it lacking something awesome? Well, head out to your local liquor store and pick up something extraordinary. Grab a bottle of Old Humble Straight Whiskey or Old Humble Special Reserve. They're clean, smooth, easy drinking whiskeys that taste the way whiskey should taste. From humble beginnings to an extraordinary finish, Old Humble whiskeys are what your bar needs today. Walk tall, be awesome, and drink humble. Old Humble Straight Whiskey and Old Humble Special Reserve. Get yours today.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, big hand to the Ad Twins. Thank you so much, ladies, for recording our promo there. I do need to get a new promo because we do have 2 more brands. Right now, we have our Double Oak Rye that needs to be added to that list, added to the promo. Maybe some other promo. I'll figure something out. And of course, coming this winter, probably in December, if everything goes well in the month of May, coming in December is the return of the legendary. Do I have a bottle over here? For the return of the legend, the second coming. Do I have a bottle down here? The oft talked about, rarely seen. Where is it? Boomtown Bourbon. I don't even have a bottle back here. Yeah, I do. There you go. The, coming back this winter, our Boomtown Bourbon. That's something to be excited about. That's something to be very excited about. So, grab hold of whatever parts you need to grab hold of because that's the one. That's the reason we have a distillery right there. So I'm super duper excited about that. But come back tomorrow night for our trivia night, and then come back Friday for our Friday nights live. This week we are featuring Paul Day, returning champion, back for an encore performance tomorrow night. And then, we'll see you next week. We have an update on our quest for 100,000 views. We have, I don't know what we're going to do on Whiskey Wednesday, our Whiskey Happy Hour on Wednesday, where science and philosophy meet. Who's that joining me? I see a comment that just popped up. Who is that joining me? Glory to our great Tuna Emperor. Tuna is in the house. Cheers, Tuna. Welcome to, well, this is the end of the show. You got here just in time to see me wrap everything up. We are, tomorrow night's trivia. Next week, or Friday night is music. Monday, we'll do an update for our 100,000 views, our goal of 100,000 views. And then Tuesday, we're going to take a night off because I will be driving to Laredo and back. And then Wednesday, science and philosophy meets whiskey. We're going to talk Wednesday. The goal is to get the safety doc in here, but I may not be able to get safety doc in because I have lost his book. I've gotten through the first couple of chapters. I moved it into another room and I lost it. I don't know where it's at. So what's this say? I can't see the comments. Ew. 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 Tomorrow night's trivia show. If we do a trivia show tomorrow night, it'll be early. The show's scheduled for trivia at the distillery is scheduled for 7 o'clock. We should get the show started a little bit earlier, about 6:30, 6:45, give or take. So trivia will be early tomorrow. If we do a show for trivia, if I can figure out how to get the show working for trivia, we'll do a trivia show tomorrow, where you people out there, y'all can participate with the folks at the distillery doing a pub trivia event. And then Friday, Paul Day performing at the distillery. It was a big show a couple of weeks back. Everybody enjoyed it. We brought him back. And then, like I said, next week, Monday, 100,000 views update. Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday, whiskey and science meet. Thursday, trivia. Friday is Marshall playing at the distillery live. Well, you see, here's the thing. These are not answers that'll be able to be looked up. You can try to Google them, but there is not enough time because the game is intended to be played at the distillery. So we ask the question twice and then we move on to the next one. We ask the question twice, we move on to the next one. So I'm not sure how to work in online participation for the uh, for the show. I'm not sure how to do that. Maybe you write down your answers and you take a picture of them. I don't know. Honest to God, I don't know. Maybe y'all just get to watch it. Maybe y'all don't get to win prizes. Y'all just get to watch at home and kind of participate like the same way you do talk shows and game shows at home. I don't know. I don't know yet. I honest to God do not know yet. So bear with us. We'll see. We'll figure it out. We'll work it out. This may be the end of maybe trivia nights online are going to be a little slower. Maybe these will just be televised games from the distillery, and y'all can participate at home. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I haven't figured it out yet. That's why we didn't do a show last week. I couldn't figure out the kinks last week. We did it at the distillery. I couldn't figure out how to do it online and do it fair online. So we'll see. Anywho, that's it. That's a wrap. It's time. Dessert is waiting for me. It is 10:53. Um, Tuna, you got any thoughts you want to put in there on free speech in the last 3 minutes that we have before I wrap this thing up? Now's your chance to do it. You have a forum for free speech within certain boundaries, which are obvious and clearly intuitive. I'll say that they're not spelled out anywhere, but they're clearly intuitive. Uh, you'll be able to. I mean, it's easy. Glory to the great tuna. Glory to the tuna empire. Down with the squids. Yeah, squid stuff. Uh, who's that? Bacon's in the house. Holy shit! Everybody's y'all are coming at the end of the damn show. I'm out of whiskey. The show's over. That's okay. The free speech part of it's all set up. I'm gonna try. Okay, the goal is to take these shows and clip them out, but this one was kind of a fucking dumpster fire of a show. So I kicked the cord out of my microphone. I'm kicking stuff around here on the ground. It was just like um, time to extend. Yeah, this is basically the discussion point of the show, the discussion part. Um, I'm gonna get comfortable. I'm gonna shoot a text to my lovely wife, ask her to bring me a bottle of hooch off of the. Give me 1 second here. I gotta text my assistant. If she was watching the show, she'd know I need booze, but she's not watching, so it's fine. Can you bring me the bottle from the counter? Yeah. See if that works. Try a bell. One of those little bells. Ding a ling a ling a ling a ling a ling. That'd be funny. That'd make me laugh. What I'm going to do is since we're in the discussion part of the show, I will flip to where's the screen? It's me. This is me with chat. Nope, is this me with chat? Which one's me with chat? That one? That one. There it is. We're going to cut. There it is. Chat right here on my left. Can we make it bigger? Make it bigger. Bigger? One more time. That work? Yeah, that works. That looks good. All right, now, if my lovely wife pulls through in a clutch and brings me my bottle of booze from the counter, she may already be in bed. I don't know. It's 10:30, 10:15. So, point of the thesis of the discussion or the of the topic was that our free speech is not in any danger of being abridged by Congress just because Elon Musk bought fucking Twitter. Um, if anything, uh, I mean, and even the forum that made Twitter what it is, it's a $45 billion forum for discussion. It's never been an open forum where you can say or do whatever the hell you want. there's been community standards. People have abused those community standards. Same way they abuse the community standards on Facebook, same way they abuse community standards on Instagram, same way they abuse community standards on TikTok or YouTube or wherever there's community standards. People will abuse them. In the last 5 years, 6 years or so, the powers that be, the enforcers on Twitter and Facebook and elsewhere, worked harder to enforce their community standards, which is a good thing. Community standards that aren't enforced aren't standards at all. If you've got standards and if you won't enforce your standards, then you don't have standards. You can say all day long, uh, you know, I won't ever date somebody who treats me like shit. But when you go out and date people that treat you like shit, then you clearly don't have that standard. So social media forums, they have a baseline standard. Just like there were video stores that didn't sell porn. And the video stores that did sell porn, they had that little back room with the beady little curtain. I mean, some of y'all don't know what video stores are. It's fine. They had a little back room that was behind the curtain, and you had to go slink into the back room like some kind of pervert to go look at. Oh, she's listening. Rye, please. You had to be some kind of, slink into the back room with your trench coat and your hands in your pockets, sunglasses and hat, and try and go get yourself a video cassette. Back when they sold video cassettes. Do they even have videotape? They don't have video stores anymore, do they? I don't know. Why would people pay money in this day and age for porn? I don't get it. It doesn't make any damn sense. It's out there. It's free. Why are you paying money for this shit? But the basic thesis was, and continues to be, social media networks have never been a forum for unabridged free speech. They've never been a forum for that. And we shouldn't expect it to become one just because some billionaire bought one of them. We should expect it to be a forum for probably not well regulated, but at least speech that falls within the community standard. How much space do I have? Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Okay. Thank you, my love. The mystical bottle floating in from the edge of the screen. Thank you, sweetie. Good night, baby. She was paying attention. Mwah. She did. She texted me back. She paid attention. I got my bottle. Everything's good. Life is good. Life is good. But that was the thesis. That continues to be the thesis. It wasn't just the thesis for the first 45 minutes. It's still the thesis. Twitter does not equal free speech, and free speech does not equal Twitter. Free speech is the ability for you and me and everybody else to say whatever they want that's legal and true. You can't slander people. You can't. I guess it'd be libel would be written. You can't slander people. You can't yell abusive and you can't yell. You can't intentionally incite people to dangerous behavior. You can't stand up in a crowded theater and yell fire. That's the excuse. That's the example everybody always uses. The reason you can't do that, you can do it in an empty theater. The reason you can't do it in a large theater is because that would be intentionally trying to scare people. It's a great way to escape pursuit, I suppose, but you can't do that if you're intentionally trying to scare people. So you have always been able to, and will continue to be able to, say things that are legal without fear of retribution from the government, but you have never been able to say things in public You've never been able to say things without fear of retribution from your neighbors. Social, there's always been a risk. In some places, the risk has been higher than others, but there's always been a risk of social retribution for saying remarkably stupid things out loud. Even back in, the 1880s, the 1840s, the 18 teens, if you're there at the town hall, whatever, and the whole group, the whole town is there, and you're having a town meeting, and you stand up and you go, I'm pretty sure Mabel's a witch, and she made my cow milk sour. My cow's milk went sour because she's a witch. In the 1800s, you'd have been laughed out of town because you're a fucking idiot. And you should be because you're a fucking idiot. 1600s, it was a little bit different. There were different social standards in the 1600s. What's Bacon got here? People have a speech on certain platforms that they advertise that they're open platforms and therefore get certain benefits. But certain venues have their own rules. Yeah, and I mean, there's certain platforms that say they're open platforms, whatever that's this dumb, what is it, truth media, whatever. It says it's a place where people could be racist fucktards. Uh, that's not really true because they have like they're like you could say do whatever you want. Then you look at their community standards, which they have, and the community standards say you can't say this, you can't say this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. They immediately restrict on that platform. Uh, but nobody's using it anyway, so it doesn't matter. I don't even know. Is it still a thing? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's another one called Getter, Gittr, Getter, whatever. But we have never, ever, ever, ever had the freedom to say and do whatever we want without consequence. There's always been consequence associated with what we say and do. The difference in the United States is that our First Amendment rights tell us the consequence will not be applied by the federal government or the state government. Congress shall not pass laws abridging freedom of speech or the freedom of press. That's what it says. It does not say that you can come into my house and call my wife a fat whore. You cannot do that. There will be consequences. You will not get a second sentence out of your mouth. She is a lovely woman. Absolutely lovely woman. You can't come in. Well, you might be able to. I might give you a second sentence if you come into my house and call me a fat whore, because I'm curious where that's going to go. But I will not put up with a second sentence if you come into my house and disparage my lovely wife. That is my role. No, I'm kidding. You, but there's always been so, and then sometimes for a very long stretch of our history, those social standards have been very lax in certain situations, in certain circumstances, and only I would say recently, in the past 40 years or so, maybe 30 years or so. Especially in, I guess, in the past 10 years, 5 years. What year is this? 2022? We'll go in the past 6 years. We heard a whole lot of people saying, 7 years, since 2015. We've heard a whole lot of people saying, it would be nice to not have to be politically correct anymore. But then when you ask them what it means to not be politically correct anymore, they don't want to openly admit that they want to, call people fags and the N word and all the other. They don't want to openly admit that. They just want to be able to say it if that's what they want to say. Like, do you really want to say that though? Like, really? Is that your whole point of being? That you just like You've been waiting all your life, boomer? Is that what it is, boomer? You've just been waiting all your life so you can go down to the Piggly Wiggly and scream out the N word at the top of your lungs from the front counter? Is that what you've been waiting for? You just don't want to be politically correct anymore? Like, explain what that means. Because that, because what it ultimately boils down to, when you challenge these people and make them answer, uh, make them respond, hold their feet to the fire, what it really means is they're just tired of being decent people. Like, they're just at their core a rotten person, I guess. I don't know. It was always kind of mind boggling to me. Like, that's just, they just want to be able to you know quit being, call a spade, so to speak. I think that's about as racist as I'm willing to get. I mean, Jesus Christ. That's probably going to get me in trouble. If Lisa was here, she'd be shaking her head, holding her head. I'm like, don't say that. Um, but we've never been free of social consequence, and you should have to suffer this social consequence. I mean, that's what society's all about. Societies are allowed to set standards. Societies can go. That's what protects a society. I mean, like when I had this conversation with Lisa weeks ago, that if you don't set standards, you don't have a society. You don't. You're literally kind of setting up. Literally, kind of. That's impossible. You're kind of setting up a border uh, around your uh, uh, community and saying, this is what we'll allow. This is what we won't allow. And for a very long time, communities down here in Texas and other southern states set up standards of what they'll allow, and what they would allow is white people, and what they wouldn't allow is black people. Certainly, nobody who's so uppity that they're willing to wear their World War One military uniform and dare to look people in the eye. Sometimes community standards can be toxic, is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, Bacon, you're talking. What's up? You can come by my house and call me late to dinner. Uh, people, this cough literally just started today. You have a point. The people I've seen cry bloody murder about getting censored, whether they're right or not, have an awful attachment. Yeah. One guy who bitches and moans and cries and complains a lot about being censored is the slimy, backstabbing, spineless douchebag who is a senator here in the state of Texas. Always cries about, you know, being censored and people not wanting to hear what he has to say. And one of the problems with him specifically is that he never tells the truth. He's always lying. And it's perfectly within the rights of student groups to say, we don't want him coming to campus and lying, because he's just, we're wasting our money to, or wasting our time, wasting our facilities to have him come and talk to a group of kids and just lie, constantly lie. Um, Groups that are complaining about uh, textbooks in schools, and they're whining and crying and bitching and moaning about facts, and that the facts don't conform with their version of reality that they would want people to. And it's like, if you have a problem with facts, the problem isn't the facts. The problem is your shitty interpretation of history. And that's not free speech. There should be social consequences to constant lying, to constant racism, to overt and covert fascism. There should be social consequences. Just like there were social consequences in the 50s to people who were communist sympathizers. Just like there's social consequences in the uh, well, for the longest time in the 70s and 80s, there were social consequences to people that we suspected were gay. There were social consequences for even in the 90s. God, that wasn't long ago. My, how culture has changed in the last 25 years. My. Um, just like there should be social consequences today for people who are who advocate burning down the structures and foundations on which our democracy stand. There should be social consequences for that. You know, when certain people were going into restaurants and being spat on or being told like you can't eat dinner here, we don't want you here. Those are the kind of social consequence. You're free to say and do and go and be whoever you want to be, but you can't do it here. You can't do it in this restaurant. You're not welcome here. Just like there's signs on the door that say no shoes, no shirt, no service. There are social consequences to certain behaviors, and certain behaviors are if you're not wearing a shirt or shoes, you get no service. Pants apparently are optional. As long as you're wearing a shirt, you can Daffy Duck it. Um, does Mickey Mouse wear a shirt? He wears pants. He doesn't have a shirt. Porky Pig it. That's it. Porky Pig. He's the one with the shirt and no pants. I'm pretty sure Daffy Duck doesn't have pants either. You can't wear pants if you got a duck tail. The duck's tail has to come out through the pants or over the pants. You can't have it. You have to have a cleft in the seat of the pants so that the tail can go through. I suppose that's neither here nor there. So you can Porky Pig it into the restaurant, but you can't go without a shirt. If you have no shirt, you get no service. And I mean, you know, there was a period of time over the last couple of years that I fully planned to have a sign in my distillery that says, "Look, no mask, no vax, 200% surcharge," which would be should have been well within my rights. I couldn't deny service to people who weren't masked and vaxxed, but I could absolutely, because Greg Abbott said I couldn't do that, but I could absolutely charge them double for coming into my shop and putting my time at risk at the very least. Even if it's not my life. I mean, just even if I'm just sick for a week, it puts my time at risk because I have to take a week off. Ain't nobody coming and backing me up when I have to take a week off. You like going to the local steakhouse dressed like Yogi Bear. Now, I'll tell you this. Yogi Bear did not have nearly as impressive a mustache as what you've got, my friend. You have this just gorgeous. I mean, that is a lush, gorgeous, just thick. You got a nice lip pelt. I'll give you credit where credit's due. Yogi Bear doesn't have shit on you when it comes to uh, the lip curtain. Is that the right term? The hair curtain over your lip. That just sounds fucked up on so many levels. The hair curtain. Anyway, that is something that I've never been able to do the thick mustache because it like my hair kind of grows in two different directions. I have some that grows out and some that grows down, and the ones on bottom grow out, and the ones on top grow down. It kind of gets like uh, they conflict with each other, and it's annoying because I'll feel the hairs like coming through and like tickling the bottom lip. So anyway, but if I trim my mustache close, shave off the rest, just trim the mustache really close, I do look like a pedophile. The thin mustache. And I have done at points in the past. I've done a thick, like full on, like all the way down here, just the mustache that goes all the way down, but nothing here and nothing here, just like all the way down. Yeah. Anyway, uh, I like going into the camp stores at state parks dressed like Yogi Bear. Yeah, but I've just got the hat and the vest and the tie with the collar and the tie and the vest, and that's it. Uh, no pants, no shirt. Actually, no. Yogi doesn't have the vest. That's boo boo. I just go with the tie and the collar, no and the hat. No pants, no shirt, no underwear, no shoes, no nothing. Just go right in there. Grab a picnic basket and run the fuck right out the door. What are they going to do? They're going to chase me and tackle me? They can't. They're not going to tackle a naked guy. Nobody wants to do that. Anyway, so I think that's from an almond, actually. I think I had an almond go down the wrong, a little fleck of almond that went down the wrong pipe that's giving me this tickle in my throat. I don't think I've got another cold. Do not think I've got another cold. My son has kind of been fighting off a little head cold. He's got a camp out next week, so he needs to not have the Rona. But he's only 11. I'm pretty sure he's good. He's been masking himself during classes and whatnot. But and he's short, so the virus doesn't live down here. It doesn't live down here. It only lives up here. I need to probably turn this up a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that's good. That's a better angle. I'll move it 2 or 3 times. All right, so there you go. So free speech. You don't need to worry about Elon Musk. Here's the other thing about Elon Musk and free speech and Twitter. Um, it's a $44 billion asset. He might come in and change a bunch of shit and fuck it all up. He might. It's entirely possible. But there's a well, I guess now that it's private, there's not as many people who have a vested interest. It's just him who have the vested interest in. Did he buy the whole thing? Is he the 100% owner or is he just the majority owner? I don't recall looking that up. But yeah, if he's the 100% owner, then it's entirely possible that he could fuck the whole thing up. But his stated purpose is not to take his $44 billion asset and turn it into trash. And if he did take his $44 billion asset and turn it into trash, you can count on somebody else stepping up and saying, you know what? We have a pile of money and we have the expertise and knowledge behind what we did. They could create something to replace a fucked up Twitter like that. It would take zero time to download the algorithms and code off of their SD cards or zip drives or whatever the hell they stored all the stuff on. It would take zero time, unless they have a non-compete clause, but it would take zero time to start up a new social media network. If Twitter was driven into the ground, it would take zero time to fill that gap. Because Twitter's, by the way, like the 15th social network in the list of 20. It's larger than Reddit and one other that I can't remember what it is. Like two, larger than two of them. And it's only a little bit larger than Reddit. You can name them all: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Hell, Facebook Messenger is a larger social network than Twitter. LinkedIn is a larger social network than Twitter, and LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, for God's sake. So yeah, nothing to worry about. I mean, it's something to be aware of, probably, but as far as like being able to go out and say whatever the fuck you want in the town square, you still got to say whatever the fuck you want in the town square. I mean, Twitter was miles ahead of, as far as quality goes, miles ahead of Facebook. As far as quality goes, miles ahead. Uh, as far as a place where you could go and not have to sift through a bunch of nonsense and bullshit from your old high school friends that you wouldn't be hanging out with if it weren't for Facebook. You wouldn't remember them. You wouldn't know their name if it wasn't for Facebook. Yeah, Twitter's a great place for that kind of community and that kind of interests, those kinds of interests. Uh, but honest to God, I find myself spending more time now on TikTok, and I guess probably TikTok and Twitter are the two big ones. Facebook is just a cesspool of shit. And then of course there's the YouTubes. I thoroughly enjoy the YouTubes that you find people. But it is now 11:22. We have gone a full on half hour past? I think it's probably time to wrap this up. So that we're gonna recap where to go and what to do tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's Thursday night. Our trivia night will start early, 7 o'clock rather than 9 o'clock. We will be live from the distillery doing trivia night with pub trivia at the distillery and somehow doing it online. It may not be fully interactive. You may not be able to win if you're tuning in online, but you can at least entertain yourself watching a trivia game show or some version of a trivia game show. Okay, so Musk owns 9%. So he's the majority individual shareholder, I guess. I mean, he owned 9% before, but the $44 billion, that's got to be more than 9% of the. That's got to be more than 9% of the company. He's got to have bought the whole thing, or at least 51%. I mean, certainly he owns more than 9%. Because my understanding was he was going to be taking it private, which means he bought out all the shareholders. Musk acquisition acquires Twitter for roughly 44 billion. 30-day free of Washington Post. No, thank you, Washington Post. Musk acquires Twitter. Let's see what it says. That's the Post story. On April 4th, business magnate Elon Musk, 43 after previously acquiring 9.1% of the company's stock for $2 billion. He becoming its largest single shareholder. So Twitter Inc., Elon Musk, $54 per share in cash, transaction value of approximately $44 billion. Upon completion of transaction, will become a privately held company. So he's buying all of the shares. He will be the 100% owner. He had previously had 9% stake. This all happened inside the month of April. Can you believe that shit? All within the month of April. It must be nice to have that kind of money just to throw around. He is quoted as saying, "The free speech is the benchmark of a functioning democracy, and Twitter is the digital town square where matters vital to the future of humanity are debated. I also want to make Twitter better than ever by enhancing the product with new features, making the algorithms open source to increase trust, defeating spam bots, blah, 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 blah." See, I dispute the whole notion that Twitter is the quote unquote town square. It is a town square, but it is not the town square. And even if you were to close Twitter, that would not limit your freedom of speech. And even if it is a forum, you are not entitled to an audience. And you are not entitled to violate community standards. Because the community is allowed to set standards. And in the case of Twitter, Twitter is allowed to set its standards. Elon Musk can decide that those standards are whatever, and people can just whatever shit in their hand and throw it on the wall and say, "Look, free speech." But in that case, the rest of Twitter, everybody else on Twitter, can just fucking abandon the forum. And if it's a And see, that's where you run into the danger of free speech is, and it's the paradox of tolerance. If you tolerate if you tolerate speech that is inherently intolerant, then you run the risk of all other speech being wiped out as well. And that's the paradox of tolerance, that you can't tolerate intolerance. You can't tolerate, uh, uh, you can't treat as equal two things that don't have equal consequences. You know, a knife and a gun are not, they're both weapons, but they're not equal. A ladder can be used as a weapon, but it's not the same as a nuclear bomb. Um, you don't treat these things the same. And when you have a group of people in the town hall, in the town forum, uh, standing up and saying that uh, we should all burn the town hall down and burn the town forum to the ground and build an entirely new one on the rubble that we will leave behind. And anybody who disagrees with us is an enemy of the state, and anybody who disagrees with us is lying to you, and they're also stealing babies and eating their brains because they're demon monsters. Wahahaha. That's not the same. That's not the same as the opposite group of people saying we shouldn't go bankrupt if we have the medical bills. Medical bills shouldn't bankrupt us. Those two things aren't equal and opposite. Um, you know, when you have one group of people saying we should have uh, no federal government, no laws, no regulations, and the other group of people saying, look, we shouldn't have to drink poison water, that's not the same. Those aren't equal and opposite. Uh, uh, we saying we should have no regulation on dumping in lakes and streams versus we should not have to drink poison water are not equal and opposite. Because you can say that we shouldn't have those regulations and the community should decide what gets dumped in the water, then the community still has to deal with poisoned water. And maybe they do stop the dumping after it starts, but they don't. Just because you stop it doesn't mean you get to the just because you stop it doesn't mean that undoes the harm that was done in the dumping in the first place. These are not equal and opposite. There's like zero as the baseline, and then like negative 1,000, which is the alternative. And the alternative is very, very, very harmful because it takes 1,000 away, and then you have to spend time recovering that 1,000, and then moving forward and getting to where you would have been had you not taken that 1,000 away. And that's the same way with uh, like the climate change debate. It's that climate change is harmful and problematic, and we need to do something about it. Is not the opposite of climate change is not harmful. We shouldn't do anything about it. Those aren't opposites. Opposite is not do nothing about it. Opposite is uh, uh, we shouldn't go as far. Those are the opposites. The complete alternative that is a negative to the we should do something about it is doing nothing and continuing to pump hydrocarbons into the sky and the waters and continuing to do harm. Uh, there's there's continuing to do harm, which is what we're doing now, versus doing no harm. And then the alternative to that is we should do something to roll it back. There's like the equal and opposite isn't continuing to do nothing and something to roll it back. The opposites are continue to do nothing and do harm versus just stop doing harm. It's like, whoa, let's slow down. Those are the two opposing views, and both of those views are damaging and harmful. And that's probably not a true analogy either. That's probably not true, because in the real discourse, there's you know, let's take steps to do something and slow it down versus do absolutely nothing. Um, but I'm kind of losing the lead. I'm losing the train of thought on this. Um, and that at least the theoretical, back to what Elon was saying, that Twitter's the town forum, and we should have an open discussion. Yeah, open discussion is really fine, but when the open discussion takes the place of taking action to prevent harm that's being done, uh, that's a group of people spreading gasoline around and tossing lit matches on that gasoline is not the time to discuss the merits of whether or not you should burn the entire place down. The merits or uh, uh, demerits, contra merits, benefits and harm of burning the whole place down. That's not a discussion to have. You stop them from spreading around the gasoline. You stop them from throwing the lit matches on the gasoline. You stop them from burning this shit down. You stop them. Now we discuss. Once you've stopped them from doing that, now we can discuss it. But you have to stop the harmful action from happening. You have to put the brakes on that. And burning down the whole place and not burning down the whole place are not two opposites. The two opposing discussion, the two poles of the discussion of burning the place down or making it better, that's not really two opposites that you let happen and continue to act, continue to move forward, because you can't undo the damage done once the damage has been done. You have to stop the damage from being done, and then you can discuss whether or not that should be allowed to happen. Damn it. Damn it, my kid gave me a fucking call. I'm certain of it. Filthy children. That's what it is. Just like when you go into a doctor, the doctor is going to tell you before you get the surgery on your lungs that you gotta stop smoking. You gotta end the harmful actions. You gotta end the habit. Of course, a lot of people at that point be like, you know what, I made it this far. I enjoy smoking. I'm going to keep smoking. Screw you, doctor. Which is again well within their prerogative, I suppose. But that's what community standards are about. That's what the community standards are for, is for the community to stand up and stop the harmful actions. Say, look, that we're not going to accept, we're not going to allow that. We don't want that to happen. But you also need to make sure that community standards, this is the balance that needs to be struck with community standards. If they're too strict or harmful, then it does stifle the growth and progress and discussion and growth. That's the best word, I think, of a community. It stops the dynamicism, dynamism, yeah, of a community. It stifles the rich depth and growth that a community can experience. If you have too strict of standards, it restricts the free expression and free exchange of ideas. And so you don't want too strict of community standards, but you absolutely want to have some community standards. Because if you don't have community standards, you don't have a community. And that's a fact of life. That's how communities work. That's how communities function. And that's how communities die, by either having too strict of standards or too loose of standards. And that is going to be the challenge for our Mr. Tony Stark, who has just bought a town forum. That's going to be his standard, is to make sure, that's going to be his challenge, is to make sure the community standards aren't too strict and aren't too loose. Because you don't want no standards, but you certainly don't want standards that are so strict that you uh, can't do anything. Um, I can't can tell me how many times I've had a little algorithm pop up say, "Do you really want to say that? Do you really want to call them a bitch?" I'm like, yes, they are really a bitch. Quit. They need to quit being a bitch, and then I will quit calling them a bitch. But on Facebook, see, this is what makes Facebook trash versus the others. Facebook, you know, good good old fashioned ribbing between buddies, that'll get you blocked. That'll get you banned for 30 days or 3 days or 7 days or however long the damn bans are on Facebook. Uh, that Facebook's had gotten their standards so strict that you can't sneeze without being able to without continuing to function, unless, of course, you're just saying racist shit, and then Facebook will let that go. They don't care. That doesn't go up against community standards. But oh my God, you call somebody a bitch, or uh, you tell somebody that they're acting like a stupid little twat, and damn it, you're going to get banned. You're gonna get banned for about however long the bans are. 7 days, 3 days. Was it 2 months? Is that one? Do they go as far as 2 months? I don't know. Um, I've learned my lesson after getting a 7 day ban. I'm like, fuck this. I'm not fucking around with YouTube, Facebook anymore. Those little bitches can be whoever they want. But that doesn't mean that my free speech has been abridged. That just means that I can't say whatever I want to say on Facebook unless I pay them in rubles. And then I can say whatever shit I want to say about it. Whatever. I can spread all kinds of dumb bullshit. Don't want to get into it. Any fucking lies. Anyway, fucking Facebook. Trash ass Facebook. I'll say it. YouTube's a little bit more accommodating. I can say a lot of things on YouTube. Twitter is a lot more accommodating, and has always been. But Twitter also at least has basic standards where you cannot willfully spread nonsense without having it at least tagged a little bit saying that it's nonsense. So there's good and bad. I'll go that far. I will go that far. Say it's good and bad. That's a great question. Goddamn bacon ass. What do you do when the rules keep getting changed and keep getting applied lopsidedly, or both getting changed and being lopsided? That is that is that was one of the problems that these social networks had 7 years ago, and that's one of the problems that Facebook has now. The rules are applied. The rules are applied. Uh, not so much lopsidedly, but the rules are applied kind of uh, haphazard's probably not the right word. They're applied inconsistently. That's the word for it. They're applied inconsistently. Uh, the rules are applied inconsistently, and you're never quite sure. You're never quite sure what the rules are because the terms and services, the community guidelines are pretty dense, pretty thick. There's not like 10 quick rules. The Hebrews had 10 quick rules. The Israelites had 10 quick rules. They were etched in stone. You knew what was good and what was bad. What was getting kicked out of the tribe, and then they had to go and write the book of Leviticus, and then they wrote the book of Deuteronomy, and you had all these fucking rules. Um, but what do you? I mean, it becomes that's the problem, specifically the problem that Facebook is facing. That their rules are really inconsistently applied, seem to be inconsistently applied, and they change periodically, and it's really hard to keep a finger on it because you don't know if calling them a bitch this time is going to get you banned or not, but you learn your lesson and you quit calling people a bitch. Um, Inconsistent application of the rules is one thing. Lopsided is a matter of opinion. Um, the rules should be applied equally to all people, and it's if it just so happens that one one ideological orientation, let's put it that way, feels like the rules are being applied to them more heavy-handedly than others, then unless the rule had been changed specifically to target them, which I don't think that was ever the case. If the rules, like, for example, the prohibitions on misinformation tend to be touching a certain ideological bent more frequently than the other ideological bents, then maybe it falls on the ideology to maybe not peddle in bullshit. And if you feel like, oh, I should be able to peddle my bullshit, and this platform isn't going to let me peddle my bullshit, then that's when you go to the door and walk out into another town square, stand up on your uh, uh, little cardboard box there, and see if that community is more amenable to bullshit. That's that's how it goes. Not all communities are accepting of bullshit. I mean, uh, that's what the homosexual communities did in the 70s. They left certain areas that weren't accepting, and they went other places. That's what minority communities do or had done historically for 100 years. They fled the South and went up north, following the 1870s. They hightailed it up north. They left the South and went north in droves because the communities in the South weren't very accepting of them. So they left. They got the fuck out of town. But in the case of community forums, if this community isn't going to let you stand on your soapbox and preach about Presbyterianism, go to the next community, stand on your soapbox and preach. I mean, that's what they say. That's what Jesus told his apostles to do. If the town won't accept you, won't accept the preaching of my name, then shake off the dust from your sandals, shake off the dust from your tunic, and go to the next town. Move along. Um, I'm sure. I'm sure there are college campuses that are perfectly willing to listen to Ted Cruz blather about, pollinating or inseminating his spores or whatever the fuck he does to to his wife, or Milos Mykonos, whatever that dude's name is. I'm sure there's plenty of college campuses that let him do whatever the fuck he does. I'm sure there's plenty of radio stations that'll still take Alex Jones's nonsense and bullshit. Uh, I mean, if a certain forum won't accept uh, your particular flavor of nonsense, then you move your nonsense to another forum. That's it. Um, I mean, community standards shouldn't be so strict. They shouldn't be unbalanced. And to my knowledge, there are no community standards in any social network that say you cannot be of XYZ persuasion, whether it's sexual, genetic, political, uh, gender, uh, culture, uh, color, I guess, whatever. There's no community guidelines that specifically say, for example, Republicans aren't allowed. There are community guidelines that say we will strictly review misinformation. And if it just so happens that your particular ideology peddles in misinformation, or we won't allow posts that promote violence or overthrow of the government, and your particular ideology promotes violence and overthrow of the government. Well, It's not the community standards' fault. It's the ideology's fault. And I think most communities would be okay. Most communities of people on most social networks would be okay with not having nonsense and bullshit and lies and violent and violent rhetoric and calls to overthrow the government. In fact, there's a whole lot of people that wish Twitter would enforce that more. But Twitter doesn't enforce that nearly as much as some people think they should. So there you go. But in principle, community guidelines should be applied evenly to all people. And like I said before, they should not be written in such a way to make them so narrow so that the only thing you can post about is kitties, or the only thing you can post about is baseball. Now, there are sub communities within the Twitter sphere or the Facebook sphere or whatever. Like, I mean, there's all these buy, sell, trade pages on Facebook that will not let you promote your business. They are specifically like classifieds to be able to sell your junk or buy other people's junk or trade your junk for other people's junk. But if you try to tell people, look, we're having a block party, everybody's welcome, bring your own beer, there's the block on Winsong Street or whatever, come and join us on a buy sell trade page, they're going to block your post and kick you off the page, probably, possibly, maybe. But there's other places, there's other forums, and there's other places for that, and you can go do it there. But that should be applied evenly to all people and not just a handful of people say, oh, you can come to this block party. But you try to do that block party over there, you get banned from the page because, nobody wants to go to Axelrod Street. They just want to go to Winsong Street. If you try to go to Axelrod Street, well, then, you're going to get kicked off this page. I don't know why they would do that. It seems dumb, but whatever. There actually is an Axelrod Street down at the other end of our community down here. And at that end of our community, there is not a wind song, but a wind sum. So that's where I got those names. But as far as the rules changing, the rules should change. Changing times necessitate changing rules. That's a fact of life too. Although if you're really clever, you can write rules that don't have to be changed all the time. They can be applied broadly and evenly. If you're really clever, you can do that. There's most of the amendments to the Constitution are written in such a way that they don't have to be changed every 5 or 10 years. You maybe add another one every 10 or 20 years. But, that's just how it goes. All right, well, this has been fun. It is time to wrap it. It is 11:50. We've gone for 2 hours. I'll pop in chapters to this tomorrow when the timeline is fully sealed and set. Next week, I'm sorry, let's start with tomorrow, Thursday night, trivia night, Friday night, live from the Old Humble Distilling Company, live concert streamed from the Old Humble Distilling Company. We've got Greg Day coming from the distillery, a returning champion, making an encore performance. Greg Day, he was a fun watch a few weeks back. He will be a good show. And then Monday we'll do our. That is the first Monday in May. We will do our update on our 100,000 views, our quest for 100,000 views, and see how that's going. Hopefully we'll have a few more subscribers. We get up to 550. That is actually one thing that has been an interesting thing to see during this last 6 or 8 weeks was the subscribers and how they've changed versus the views. And I need to. That's been informative, but I need to look at it. I had to put in a rule I never thought I'd have, to which is no character assassination on my show. And if you unmute yourself after I have to mute you, you're that is a good rule. If you have to mute somebody and they unmute themselves before you're ready, before you let them out of timeout, then they have to go. That's a good rule. That is a good rule. Um, every time I open up my Zoom link to invite people in, I never get people joining. So I kind of quit doing it, but I'll probably start doing it again in a couple of weeks. Actually, I'm going to try and start having guests on this show. I tried to get our science advisor on for this week, but she will be probably in June if I can't get her on sooner. She's just wrapped up a major project. She got a doctorate. She's working on the People CO2, which is a paint which collects carbon dioxide passively out of the atmosphere, turns it into a calcium carbonate substance, which you can literally just scrape off the building and replace with more paint. Or if you put it on a building, scrape off the building, or you put it on the pavement. I can also do it that way. Fascinating. Just an awesome, awesome, awesome product, and an awesome, just a awesome person. She's a cool chick. Um, and then of course the safety doc. I want to get him on the show. I've got some whiskey women podcasters that I want to get on the show. But see, I got to work in the right topics because it's whiskey meets science and philosophy. So we got to have the right topic with the right guest, and it's a challenge because I don't do a whole lot of planning on these shows. And if I have to do the planning on the shows, I have to think ahead, and if I have to think ahead, then I have to put effort. It's a challenge. This was after a raid on my show where a group of Spurgs and Tarns decided to come on and start drama. Oh, you mean mute them in chat? Yeah, that's that. Mute them in chat. Oh, I guess mute them on the show too. That makes sense. That's fair. I'm not famous enough to have that kind of drama yet. I have had several bots come through the chat, and a handful of fascists and neo Nazis, and a couple of racists. But I've blocked those particular phrases from showing up uh, that they were fond of, so they can't come anymore. I haven't had that problem since. But it also helps that nobody watches my show. That's not entirely true. It's not true anymore. It's not entirely true anymore. It's a little bit true. But anyway, so yeah, next week we got the Monday show. We've got the Wednesday show. No show on Tuesday night because I'm driving to Laredo, and then Wednesday night science and whiskey, or science and philosophy meets whiskey. Thursday night trivia. Friday night live music. We have Marshall next Friday night, uh, which is just going to be a dope ass show. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. It's going to be an absolutely fun night. And I'll try and squeeze in a day in the life show. No, it's not gonna be next week. It'll probably be the week after because I will be unbarreling. I will be bottling up our special reserve, pulling it out of the barrel, spudding a barrel, if you will, um, and getting it into bottles that second week of May. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. It's been fun. This has been a good night. I've enjoyed the conversation. It's been enjoyable. Now I have the hiccups. For an inexplicable reason, I can't explain it at all. But we're going to wrap it. That's the sponsor. That's the main cam. That's the one I want to see. There it is. Be awesome to each other. Protect your rights. Protect your freedom of speech. Protect your freedom of assembly. Protect your freedom to bear arms. Protect the freedom of your home from unwarranted search. Be secure in your papers. protect all your rights. Uh, that's your duty as an American. And I did say duty, and you are allowed to giggle about that. But more importantly than that, be awesome to yourself and be awesome to each other. Think with your whole brain, love with your whole heart. Cheers. See you all tomorrow night, Thursday night. Cheers and good night. Which one is it? Close the show with credits? Is that the one? Boop.